interacting with the stakeholders. We're interacting with all stakeholders in health, professionals, and even students to discuss the manifesto. Of course, most people in Nigeria today knows most of the basic problems we have in that sector. Issue of tourism, brain drain. Every young professional wants to go abroad. So we think that we must put structures that will favor our younger generations to remain in this country and make the country a better place for all of us, and especially for the upcoming generations. Some of us have done our better part of years, but we feel that, like they said, the future is for the young ones, and it's only when you make the place habitable, they will want to stay back and work in this environment. So the manifesto where we have is such that it's taking care of every area of the health sector, cutting across, from primary health care to the infrastructure problems, to the training of the professionals, research, manufacturing of drugs, local manufacturing. Nigeria has the capacity to be self-sufficient health-wise. So, and we think that the only way we can do it is we all bring ideas to the table and know how to implement it. We have Nigerians who have been excelling everywhere. They put them, they do very well. They come here, everybody is complaining. And we have found out that one of the major problems we have is our environment. Some of them are inflicted by the operators of the environment. We can see what just happened recently with the issue of Naira and fuel. It's a factor of self-induced problems. So part of what we're going to do in this coming regime is to make sure that we remove all those human bottlenecks, human structures that make us not to do well in Nigeria as a place. You can see in the efforts the governors have done. You know, in a society has good, the bad, the ugly. What we are facing today are done by the bad and the ugly. And the good have gone to Supreme Court to say, we're not saying we shouldn't change our currency, but you cannot do it overnight, bam. You don't have enough of the new currency for people to spend, and you are saying, don't use the old currency. So what we are saying is that allow both to run pari passu till a time that there's enough of the new currency, we can now phase out the old currency. Like I said earlier on, part of our problem in this environment are people putting bottlenecks. Government has good policies, government have good ideas, but there are still some of these elements, either because of their selfish greed or self-interest or being mischievous. They do some of these things that make things, sometimes they are targeting one or two persons, but in targeting one or two persons, punishment for that person, it affects the whole lot. If you look at today, the Naira problem, some of us are not really affected. Because for me, I can't remember, I don't really bother about cash. I do online transactions. And at the level I am, if I'm owing anybody, if I go and buy something, most times they can say, go, pay me, come tomorrow, they freely want to give me credit. But the man down, the masses are the ones that, at the end, they're punishing them. You know, some of these things they're doing. And we are pained that I'm happy today, the president has called a meeting for tomorrow. These are things we need to discuss and get life going. It is unfair to the common man. It's unfair to the whole masses. It's unfair to the youths, which they are more in population. They're the ones suffering. They're the ones who enter bus. The bus driver, you can't do transfer to the bus driver. You have to pay him cash. And for the last 3 weeks, so yesterday, day before yesterday, I saw cash for the first time because I went to the bank to do a transfer and they said they're paying 10,000 naira. There was no queue. I said, okay, for the fund, let me just collect the cash. For me, I don't need cash to function. But there are people who go to markets to buy pepper, onions, they must pay cash. So I'm glad the president has Somebody has been able to, the governors actually went to court because, you see, the people who have been mischievous, imagine, they went to court telling the government, you cannot, what kind of thing is that? It's a very unfair decision to the common man just because of their selfish strategy or trying to make APC look bad. That's all. They're trying to make APC look bad. So people will hate us, and election day, they say these people have made us to suffer, they won't vote for us. That's just it, the way it is. But I'm happy we have a man like El-Rufai who is very proactive, who is a truthful man, a true Nigerian, honest man. That's the man who first said power must go to the South. The North has had their 8 years. It would be unfair for us to retain power. The same man too, when the whole thing started, stood up and spoke. The same man too led people to court. So we need more of him. Do you understand? So I feel that Nigeria needs more upright people, people who damn the consequences and face the truth and say it. And I'm sure the place will be better, a good place for all of us. One thing I know that it's not even only doctors that are living in Nigeria. Most professionals want to go and work outside the shores of this country. Even artisans, even mechanics. They feel that life is better outside. Now, take Lagos State for example. It was when Tinubu became governor, judges started living like what they should look like. Because a man who is going to preside over a case, sentence somebody to, or a case of corruption, and the man doesn't have money, how do you think the man could stand firm on a decision when you go and show him bags of money, what he has not seen before in his life? So when Tinubu came in Lagos, I'll give you an example. He made judges, first of all, they could have good homes, drive good cars. They look forward to. And if a man is contented, corruption, running away from his country is removed. Do you understand? If same Tinubu, he changed the face of medical practice in Lagos State for those who work in government. First of all, it's not only salary that some of us are worried about. You need to, the environment where you work needs to be good. So you must get job satisfaction. Then you cannot have your own welfare. Do you understand? So I'm sure if you take Lagos, like I always say, take a cue from Lagos and bring it to Abuja. Do you understand? Life will be better for all of us. For those of you who know Lagos State, you can see if you enter most of the offices where the young people work, from their tax office to even the toll gate office, you see young men who are happy, working for the government. I'm sure these are things that Tinubu already has in his plans to implement at a larger scale. All he needs to do now is this, what he has done in Lagos is to enlarge it here. But zero it down to medical doctors. There, one thing I know that will happen with him, first of all, we're paying subsidy in this country. Why are we paying subsidy? When we were young, in the 70s, we had refineries that were working. We were exporting petrol to other West Coast countries. So, if we remove, see, our case in Nigeria today is a case like a farmer who goes to farm, produces cassava, onions, rice, and he carries everything and go and sell it to Sheraton Hotel, and goes back in the night to go and buy food from Sheraton. Can he ever break even? He can never break even. So that's what we're doing with our petrol. What God has given us, the natural resources God has given us, we refuse to develop it from the primary to the secondary where we can make profit. And you see again, we're dealing with world economics. You see, the people we're dealing with, we're in competition with the developed worlds. You see, God is awesome. God wants us to develop. God wants us to grow. He gave us natural resources. Now, the people that don't have the natural resources say, don't worry, don't do your natural resources. We'll do it for you. Just give us the raw materials and come and buy the finished products. That's what they're doing to us. So, one thing I can assure you, with a man like Tinubu, from the way he has run his businesses and his political structures, you can see the way he has done it. You can see what you have today in the federal government. Nearly more than 50% of the people there are people who have worked with him. He's a man who develops talent. He sees you can do it for me, he encourages you. You come with an idea to him, you can do it, he encourages you. That's why you need to make people develop. And besides, begin to develop our natural resources into finished products and begin to sell to those people who have been telling us, don't worry, give me a raw material. We'll now tell them, no, we already have the finished products. Do you understand? You see, most like China, Pakistan, most of these Asian countries, that's how they started their own things. So I'm sure that it's not going to be bam. These things won't come immediately. So we have to be patient. The government will come. We'll have a process, which I'm sure that if you give the government 2 years, 3 years, at least you begin to see gradual improvement. You know, because first thing, once we're able to remove subsidy, do you understand? That there is a drain to our, that's what has killing our naira. Everything we have, we need to pay for, because we don't want the petrol to be very expensive. So when it comes here, you have to subsidize it, pay the differences for the people to utilize it. So I can assure you that with a man like Tinubu, we'll be very practical. What we need is a practical government, and I'm sure God has made it possible for him to come to the center. Well, you see, there's what we call health insurance schemes. There's what they call off pocket. You pay from off your pocket. We have it, insurance schemes. It's just that we don't have a full lot coverage yet. By the time you have full coverage, okay, you can walk into the hospital because you have your insurance card. Nobody's going to ask you to pay money. All they need to authenticate that your card is real. Make reference to your insurance company, the health insurance company, HMO, that you are viable to take treatment, and then you'll be attended to. That's the scheme that we are promising, what we call universal health care, that will cover a lot of Nigerians. Now, what you have is that maybe we put those who are working in a company, their company, enlist them. So, but the percentage is very minute. By the time you do universally, every Nigerian is covered. That issue of cash, the man doesn't have money, he has an accident, they say if he doesn't have money, the man will die. That will be removed. Okay? So that's what you need to implement. Because you see, whether it's government hospital or private hospital, somebody needs to account for the drugs, for the injections that he's used. So if he uses it without then getting the recourse for how the money will come back, the system will collapse.